Welcome to the latest instalment in our Banking and Finance video series. I'm Nikita Goodwill, and today I'm joined by Emily Scaife and Nick Middleton, all in our Corporate Restructuring and Insolvency team here at Burgess Salmon. Our Restructuring and Insolvency team sits within our wider Banking and Finance practice. And whilst our colleagues have been speaking to you about how new lending opportunities can facilitate progress, we'll be talking to you today about the main considerations in acquiring distressed businesses on an accelerated timetable. Emily, one of the first main things to think about here is formulating the offer letter. Can you give us some considerations as to how you would approach formulating an offer letter in a distressed scenario?
Yes. The key thing, which might sound obvious, is to make yourself the preferred bidder and to craft your offer letter in that light. And hopefully, but this isn't always possible, be granted a period of exclusivity in which to complete your transaction. It's really important to get professional restructuring advice at that early offer letter stage, either from a lawyer or from a financial advisor, and ask for their help in formulating your offer letter. And that's because it's not just about having the highest price in your offer letter, it's not just about getting your offer in first. The insolvency practitioner will look at all offers in the round, and they will look at the offers through the lens of, is this buyer credible? So have they done similar deals? Are they well advised? Is this deal deliverable? So is there any conditionality involved in this offer? And finally, is this deal possible to get completed within the timetable available to the insolvency practitioner? In other words, can this buyer complete before the seller runs out of money?
Great, thank you. Often due diligence will form a material part of that offer letter and also the exclusivity period. Nick, can you give us any guidance on the due diligence process?
Yeah, absolutely. So as part of that offer process, as Emily said, you're going to want to eliminate as much conditionality as possible. And that's where DD comes in. Now, unfortunately, with DD in an accelerated timetable, there's a real mismatch between the amount of DD and the level of DD you're going to want to do against how much you are actually able to do in the time available, and also based on the information that is available, because often in distress situations, information is poor or can be poor, certainly on certain aspects. And so you're going to have to juggle that and work your way through in order to assess what's really important, i.e. what is absolutely critical and fundamental to this transaction, i.e. if it isn't sorted out or resolved pre-completion, then the deal no longer works from your perspective as a buyer, versus the other category, which is, okay, that will have to be sorted out and it would be nice to have it done in advance, but actually we can deal with that post-completion because we're able to either price in that risk, or it is something that is just going to form part of a much wider pool of work that we're going to necessarily have to do in order to tidy things up post-completion.
Thanks. You've raised a really important point there in respect of things often need to be resolved post-completion in these accelerated processes. And obviously in order to do that, you're going to need the support of your seller, which is obviously your insolvency practitioner and their advisors. And I think that really stresses the importance of building really strong relationships with those parties as the transaction progresses, and taking a really collaborative approach to the transaction to ensure that that mutual support continues after the transaction completes in order to get these things done post-completion.
Yeah, distressed deals are not done at completion. I think that's safe to say.
So obviously that's really important to have strong relationships with those parties, but does the approach change with any other third parties?
Yes is the short answer. I mean, it's going to vary from case to case as to what the right approach is, but you mentioned sort of having a collaborative approach with the insolvency practitioners, and I think the general rule should be that applies to third parties as well. So, that means understanding their history with the seller, potential points of debate or dispute that they've had in the past, and working with those third parties to understand how you can resolve them. So that might unfortunately mean that they're taking a ransom position and so need to be paid shortly post-completion. It might mean something else. It might mean they want to recut certain terms of their particular deal, whether that's a supplier or a landlord. But I think, again, surveying that third-party landscape as part of your DD so that you can understand what work you're going to need to do post-completion is another really important thing to note.
Great, thanks. And finally, Emily, do you have any recommendations as to how people can stay up to date and be aware of these types of transactions going forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the best compliment we ever get, isn't it, when we complete a transaction and a client says, that was brilliant, how can we get our hands on another one of these distressed opportunities? And I would always recommend 3 things. So firstly, know your sector. So know your competitors, have your ear to the ground, be the first to hear if there's potential financial distress somewhere within your sector. Secondly, know and really understand your supply chain, which is good governance anyway, of course. But if you have good supply chain management, you should really be one of the first people to identify a distressed opportunity there. And finally, stay close to your advisors, and importantly, let them know that you're interested in this area.
Great. Thanks very much, Emily and Nick. That's given us plenty to think about there. That's all we've got time for in this episode. Thank you very much for watching. But if you'd like to speak to us about this further, please don't hesitate to get in touch.